You know what else is really funny? I was looking this up because I actually didn't know about Clubhouse until you told me about it. And in like half the articles I found about it were ding, ding, ding about China, about how Clubhouse is being used by millions of Chinese people because they're trying to get around the stifling censorship and repression from the Chinese government to talk about the human rights abuses and the Uyghurs and the repression in China, Robbie. So amazingly, China blocked Clubhouse. And how much is that revealing of like this horrible tyrannical society that suppresses the internet for all its citizens? It's like, okay, wait, but actually let's take a step back and realize that the US government actually banned TikTok or like tried to cancel TikTok because of its extreme paranoia that it was somehow some Chinese spying app. So really, what's the difference?
I mean, it is very interesting that you even say that because, yeah, there was a lot of anti-China talk just when I was casually going around. But like I said, it could just be who I followed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it does seem like there is everything somehow becomes this we're better than China type like training, like we're more free than China. Look how fucking great we are. I mean, the Uyghur thing is just so fascinating because it like really does take the focus away from all the horrible murders that we've done of the middle, in the Middle East for the last 20 years. Gitmos never talked about anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We still have an illegal gulag that rectally force feeds Muslim inmates who are never going to be released for any, like they're never going to have like a real trial. That's crazy. Oh, guess what? We now have a gulag in, I think it might be in Iraq or Syria. I'm not exactly sure. That's controlled by U.S. military proxies from the YPG that is housing over 2,000 ISIS prisoners who are like starving to death. Like we just have this like gulag for ISIS prisoners of war. That's
Why
just,
do you
like,
care about fascists, Robbie?
Yeah, I'm pro. I forgot. I'm pro ISIS.
Too bad.
Yeah, all the shit's just designed to just make it seem like it's just China is the one mistreating Muslims, and we need to talk all about this. It is sort of a pathetic way for us to overcompensate for how awful we are. And I mean, that's what it feels like to me. It's not. I'm not saying this for whataboutism. I'm saying this because it's like we have a lot of blood on our hands, and we're a karmic mess. I mean, we are fucking Jeffrey Dahmer on steroids times a million. I mean, it's really hard to pull that back. What do? Well, you could just have complete amnesia and then just start pretending that another country's really evil and act like you actually care about it.
And the problem with the Uyghur situation is there's such a fog of war around the situation that it's so unclear what the reality really is. And when you say Jeffrey Dahmer, I mean, we really are, like, the U.S. empire is such a mass murdering entity that, yeah, a million dead Iraqis, Robbie. What happened to that? And that's just Iraq. Look at Libya. Look at Syria, which we'll talk about. I mean, this just came out. Alan McLeod, who I actually think that we should have on the podcast sometime. I do really appreciate his work. On Mint Press News, he reported new statistics coming out of Code Pink that talks about how many bombs the U.S. has dropped just since 2001. I mean, it's just this absurd number that, like, you can't even wrap your mind around, like almost 500,000 bombs and missiles in the Middle East and North Africa, 326,000. Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, of course, have felt the brunt of the violence, but Lebanon, Libya, Pakistan, Palestine, and Somalia have also been targeted. That's 46 bombs dropped per day over the last 20 years. And that's a gross underestimate because the Trump administration stopped actually publishing data completely for like a year or so, maybe 2 years. And also not counted are bombs or missiles used in helicopter strikes, AC-130 gunship attacks, strafing runs from U.S. bombers, or any counterinsurgency or counterterrorism operations in other parts of the world. So when you just like look at that number and just the overwhelming amount of people who have died and been maimed, and refugees packing up your entire life to move across the country, the slave trade in Libya, all of these boats continuing to capsize in the Mediterranean. Every couple weeks, I'll see another story that's just a blip on the radar about like, oh, 30 people have died in the Mediterranean trying to flee Libya from our fucking policies there. So yes, ill treatment of Muslims, of course, is horrible. I don't know what's going on. You know, all I know is that my government is a mass murdering entity that is responsible for subjugating and oppressing tens of millions of people around the world and has the blood of millions of people on its hands. And it has not been held accountable for any of it. And people are suffering and dying every day from our policy. And we have Joe fucking Biden doing the same thing with a disturbing continuity from the Trump administration.
Absolutely disturbing. And what's interesting too is that they're even going against the WHO in terms of their investigation into the origins of the virus, which is kind of a continuity with the Trump administration as well, because it's not like it's eerie to me that they're doing that. And I think that the combination, Abby, of the fact that everyone just automatically assumes that COVID-19 came from China, and the fact that now they're resurrecting the Uyghur thing, the combination of the two is sort of almost like it's already gotten into the wider left's head already, you know, even libertarians' heads, you know, people who would normally, their instinct naturally would be to not go after a foreign country, but I think it's just already dug too deep. I mean, you see, there's only a few libertarians besides Dave Ducamp, who's been on this for a long time, actually in the right way. He's been covering this pretty aggressively in the way that we have. There's only like a few others. The whole scene is just either not talking about it or they're actually playing into the fear-mongering against China. And it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like a knee-jerk response to just be like, well, China must be bad in some regard, even though you're, you know, culturally, politically ignorant of really what China is and what it does. And I will be the first to say that I am too ignorant about what China's doing to comment on it. What I do know is like I am an American citizen and my government is perpetrating horrific atrocities around the world. And I can leverage all of my power and energy and influence, my small amount of influence, to try to help stop that. You know, that's what I want to do. I can't do shit about what China's doing. I really can't.